The great chamber of the Galactic Council floated in the silence of space, orbiting the neutral world of Viridian Prime. Inside, representatives from 43 different alien species gathered in a massive circular hall. The air shimmered with translation fields, turning countless languages into something everyone could understand. At the center stood a holographic display showing star maps and territorial borders. Captain Jiwon Park stood behind Ambassador Hana Lee, watching the proceedings with careful eyes. He wore the crisp uniform of Earth's diplomatic service, his hand resting near his communication device. Beside him, Dr. Minho Kang studied the alien delegates with scientific curiosity, taking mental notes about their behavior and body language. Doyen Choi, the security chief, scanned the room constantly, always alert for danger. The session had been routine until war leader Krathus stepped forward. The Vorlak commander was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin and forearms that ended in clawed hands. His eyes glowed red as he addressed the council. His voice boomed across the chamber like thunder. "The Vorlak Empire claims the 3 human colonies in the Outer Rim," Krathus announced. "These worlds are small and underdeveloped. The humans have only been in space for a short time. They cannot properly use these valuable planets. We can do better. We will take them and make them productive." A murmur ran through the council. Some species nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. The humans remained silent, waiting. Hana Lee rose gracefully from her seat. She was calm, her face showing no emotion. When she spoke, her voice was clear and firm. "The Galactic Council recognizes territorial rights based on settlement and development. Our colonies have been established for 20 years. We have built cities, farms, and homes there. Those worlds belong to humanity, and we will defend them." Krathus laughed, a harsh sound that made several smaller delegates flinch. "Defend them? With what? You humans have been in space for only 150 years. You have small fleets and weak weapons. The Vorlak Empire has conquered 12 star systems. We are warriors. You are children playing among the stars." "We are not children," Hana replied quietly. "And we do not play." Before Krathus could respond, another voice cut through the tension. Counselor Vextar, a reptilian diplomat from the Saurian Republic, rose from his seat. His scales were dark green and his eyes were intelligent and ancient. He had spent years studying human culture and history. "War leader Krathus," Vextar said slowly, "I must speak. I have studied the humans extensively. I know their history, their wars, their nature. If you attack them, you will make a terrible mistake." Krathus turned to face the Saurian. "What mistake?" "They are weak." "They appear weak," Vextar corrected, "but appearances deceive. I have read about their wars on their homeworld. Before they came to space, they fought among themselves for thousands of years. They developed weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They created strategies and tactics that would horrify most species in this council. They do not fight wars the way we do." "Then how do they fight?" another delegate asked. Vextar's eyes fixed on the human delegation. "They fight with everything they have. When most species in this galaxy go to war, it is limited. We fight over territory, over resources, over honor. We have rules. We have restraint. Humans do not have restraint when they believe they are fighting for survival. They call it total war. They mobilize their entire civilization. They accept casualties that would make us surrender. They do not stop until they achieve complete victory or complete destruction." The chamber fell silent. Many delegates looked at the humans with new interest. Jiwon kept his face neutral, but inside he felt a cold pride. Vextar understood them better than they had realized. "I warn you, Krathus," Vextar continued. "Do not attack the humans. You will never escape their wrath. They will not fight one battle and negotiate. They will fight until you beg for mercy, and even then they may not stop." Krathus snorted in disgust. "You speak like a coward, Vextar. The Vorlak do not fear primitive species. We have fought the Kryn Horde and won. We have crushed the Talarian Confederation. What are humans compared to them?" At the highest seat in the council chamber, Elder Thalan observed everything in silence. The ancient insectoid had lived for thousands of years and had seen countless species rise and fall. His compound eyes reflected light in strange patterns. He said nothing, but he watched the humans with an expression that might have been recognition or perhaps concern. The vote was called. One by one, the council members cast their decisions. Some voted to protect human territorial rights. Many more voted to allow the Vorlak to proceed with their claim. The galaxy operated on the principle that stronger species had certain advantages. The humans were newcomers, and newcomers rarely received special protection. The final count appeared on the holographic display. The Vorlak Empire was granted permission to claim the 3 human colonies. Humanity had 30 days to evacuate their people or face military action. Hana Lee stood once more. Her voice remained calm, but now there was steel beneath the words. The United Earth government rejects this decision. Those colonies are our homes. We will not abandon them. If the Vorlak want those worlds, they will have to take them by force. Krathis smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. That is exactly what we will do, Ambassador. Your people should leave while they can. If they remain, they will become slaves of the Vorlak Empire. We will arrive in 30 days. I suggest you use that time wisely. The session ended. As the delegates filed out, Jiwan moved close to Hana. Orders, Ambassador? Contact Earth immediately, she said quietly. Tell them war is coming. Tell them the galaxy has chosen to test us. She paused, looking back at Vextar, who watched them from across the chamber, and tell them that at least one species here knows what we are capable of. They returned to their ship, the horizon's edge. As they traveled back toward human space, Jiwan stood on the bridge, looking at the stars. Dr. Minho Kang joined him. Do you think they really understand? Minho asked. The Vorlak, I mean. Do they know what they are starting? Jiwan shook his head. No. They see us as weak because we have not been in space very long. They think military power is just about ships and weapons. They do not understand that humans have been preparing for war since before we had fire. It is in our nature. Vextar understands, Minho observed. Yes, Jiwan agreed. But Krathis did not listen. He will learn. They all will. Far away in the command ship of the Vorlak fleet, War Leader Krathis reviewed the star maps showing the 3 human colonies. He assigned 200 warships to the operation. It seemed like excessive force for such small targets, but he wanted to make a statement. The Vorlak Empire would demonstrate their power, and the other species would remember to fear them. He did not know that he had just made the worst decision in Vorlak history. He did not know that the humans had been building and preparing in secret. He did not know that humanity's military strength was far greater than anyone suspected. Most importantly, he did not know that humans remembered every lesson from every war they had ever fought. And the most important lesson was this: never start a fight unless you are prepared to finish it completely. The 30-day countdown had begun. The colony of New Busan stretched across the green valleys of Harmony 7, a planet that reminded many settlers of Earth's countryside. 50,000 humans had made this world their home over the past 20 years. They had built farms, schools, factories, and spaceports. They had children who had never seen Earth. This was their world now. Governor Tae-hyun-yoon stood in his office looking out at the city below. The 30-day deadline had arrived. Ships from Earth had come to evacuate anyone who wanted to leave. Only 5,000 people had accepted the offer. The rest voted to stay and defend their homes. Tae-hyun understood their choice. He had made the same one. He was 60 years old and had spent half his life building this colony. He would not abandon it now. A communication officer entered his office. Governor, the Vorlak fleet has entered the system. 20 warships. They are approaching orbit. How long until they arrive? 2 hours, Tae-hyun nodded. Send the evacuation ships away now. No need for them to be caught in what is coming. Contact Captain Jiwan. Tell him we are ready. In orbit above Harmony 7, Captain Jiwan Park commanded a small defensive fleet. He had 7 ships ranging from military escorts to converted cargo vessels with weapons attached. His flagship was the Dauntless, a destroyer that had seen better days. Against 20 Vorlak warships, his fleet stood almost no chance in a direct battle. But Jiwan had no intention of fighting a direct battle. All ships, he transmitted to his fleet. Remember the plan. We do not try to win. We try to make them pay for every meter of space they take. We make them bleed. We make them remember that attacking humans has consequences. Beside him on the bridge, Commander Sunmi Han prepared her fighter craft. The Wildfire was an experimental design, fast and maneuverable but lightly armed. She would lead a squadron of 12 similar craft. Against the heavy Vorlak cruisers, they looked like insects facing giants. Ready to launch, Captain, Sunmi reported. Her voice was steady, but Jiwan could hear the tension beneath it. Stay alive out there, Commander, he told her. We need you. The Vorlak fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in a standard attack formation. War leader Krathus observed the human defensive positions from his command ship and laughed. 7 ships. It was almost insulting. "Hail the colony," he ordered. "Give them one final chance to surrender." Governor Taehyun's face appeared on the communication screen. He looked tired but determined. Krathus spoke in the common galactic language. "Governor, your defenses are pathetic. Surrender now. Your people will be treated fairly if you do not resist. If you fight, we will destroy your colony and enslave everyone who survives." Taehyun smiled, though there was no humor in it. "This is our home, Krathus. We will not abandon it. If you want this world, come and take it." "So be it," Krathus replied. "You humans will learn that defiance has a price." The communication ended. Krathus gave the order to attack, and the Vorlak warships opened fire on the colony below. They targeted farms, water treatment facilities, and power stations. They avoided the cities themselves, wanting to keep the infrastructure intact and the population alive for slave labor. Explosions bloomed across the planet's surface like deadly flowers. In space, G1's fleet moved. They did not charge forward like heroic fools. Instead, they scattered, using the debris fields and asteroid clusters around the planet for cover. The Vorlak ships pursued, breaking formation to chase them down. That was exactly what Jawan wanted. "Now, Sunmi," he transmitted. Commander Sunmi Han launched from the Dauntless with her fighter squadron. They accelerated to maximum speed, flying a complex pattern that confused the Vorlak targeting systems. The fighters were too small and too fast for the heavy cruiser weapons to track effectively. Dr. Minho Kang had spent weeks studying Vorlak ship designs from archived data. He had discovered a weakness in their power systems. The main reactors were protected by heavy armor, but the cooling systems that kept them from overheating were more vulnerable. If those cooling systems failed, the reactors would shut down automatically to prevent explosions. Sunmi led her squadron directly toward the largest Vorlak capital ship. Enemy fire filled the space around them. 2 fighters exploded instantly. Another took a hit and spun away, disabled. But Sunmi flew on, her hand steady on the controls. "Target locked," she said calmly. "Firing!" Her missiles struck the cooling vents on the capital ship's port side. The explosions were small, barely visible against the massive hull. But inside the ship, alarms screamed. The reactor temperature began to rise rapidly. The automatic systems shut everything down. The capital ship went dark, drifting in space, helpless. The remaining Vorlak ships hesitated, confused. How had such a small fighter disabled their flagship? It should not have been possible. G1's fleet struck while they hesitated. The Dauntless fired a full spread of torpedoes at another cruiser. The human weapons were less powerful than Vorlak designs, but they were more accurate. The torpedoes punched through the enemy shields and detonated against the hull, tearing open large sections. On the planet's surface, the Vorlak landed troops to secure strategic locations. They expected frightened civilians to hide and surrender. Instead, they found organized resistance. Engineer Daeho Nam had spent the last 30 days preparing for this moment. He had modified mining equipment into weapons. Heavy excavation machines became mobile artillery. Industrial drones carried explosives. Construction mechs were refitted for combat. When the Vorlak soldiers marched into the industrial district expecting no resistance, they walked into an ambush. Mining charges exploded beneath their feet. Modified cargo haulers crashed into their formations. Colonists who had never been soldiers fired hunting rifles and improvised weapons from every window and rooftop. The Vorlak had superior armor and weapons, but the humans had home advantage and desperate courage. Every street became a battlefield. Every building was a fortress. The Vorlak casualties mounted. In orbit, the battle continued for 3 days. G1's fleet lost 4 ships, but they destroyed 5 Vorlak warships and disabled 3 more. The remaining Vorlak vessels were damaged and low on ammunition. Krathus had expected an easy victory. Instead, he had walked into a nightmare. Commander Sunmi Han's fighter was hit on the 2nd day. She managed to crash land near New Busan spaceport. When rescue teams reached her, she was unconscious but alive. They pulled her from the wreckage and rushed her to medical facilities. On the 3rd day, war leader Krathus made his decision. He ordered his fleet to withdraw. The cost of taking this single colony was too high. He had lost thousands of soldiers and multiple capital ships. The humans had shown tactical skill and fighting spirit he had not expected. But Krathus was not giving up. He was regrouping. This was no longer about claiming territory. The humans had humiliated him. They had destroyed his ships and killed his soldiers. This was now about honor and revenge. As the Vorlak fleet retreated, Governor Tai-hyun walked through the damaged streets of New Busan. Fires still burned in some districts. The casualty lists were growing longer. Nearly 3,000 colonists had died in the fighting. Many more were wounded, but they had won. The Vorlak had attacked and been forced to retreat. The colonists gathered in the main square, exhausted and grieving, but also proud. They had defended their home. Captain Ji-won landed at the spaceport in a shuttle. His uniform was stained and torn. He had not slept in 3 days. Governor Taehyun met him at the landing pad. "Thank you, Captain," Taehyun said simply. Ji-won shook his head. "Do not thank me yet, Governor. This was just the first battle. Krathus will return with more ships. He cannot afford to look weak now. He will bring his entire fleet." "Let him come," Taehyun replied. "We will be ready." Ji-won looked at the governor with respect. "Yes, and so will Earth. I am sending a message now. The Vorlak have chosen war. Now they will learn what that means when you fight humanity." In his command ship, fleeing toward Vorlak space, Krathus reviewed the battle recordings again and again. How had he lost? The humans were outnumbered and outgunned. Their technology was inferior, yet they had fought with a ferocity and cleverness he had never encountered. He thought about Counselor Vextar's warning. "You will never escape their wrath." Krathus clenched his 4 fists. He did not believe in running from primitives. He would mobilize the full might of the Vorlak Empire. He would bring 200 ships. He would crush the humans completely. He did not know that this was exactly what humanity wanted. Every species in the galaxy was watching now. When the Vorlak returned with their massive fleet, they would learn the truth about humans. War had come to the galaxy, and humanity was ready to teach an old lesson. Those who start wars rarely get to choose how they end. The halls of power on Earth had not seen such activity in generations. President Nari Song stood before the combined assembly of the United Earth Government in Geneva. Representatives from every nation and colony watched as she prepared to address both humanity and the entire galaxy. The transmission would be broadcast across all human worlds and relayed to the Galactic Council. Everyone would hear what she had to say. "People of Earth and our colonies," President Song began, her voice clear and strong. "The Vorlak Empire has attacked our colony on Harmony 7. They have killed our people and destroyed our homes. They believed we would run. They believed we would surrender. They were wrong." She paused, letting the words sink in. Around the galaxy, aliens watched with various reactions. Some were curious. Others were concerned. A few were frightened, though they did not yet understand why. The Vorlak came with 20 warships expecting easy victory. They retreated with half their fleet destroyed or damaged. But we know they will return. War leader Krathus cannot accept defeat. He will bring more ships, more weapons, more soldiers. President Song's expression became hard as steel. "We will be ready. To the Vorlak Empire I say this. You have attacked our people. You have destroyed their homes. We will not seek proportional response. We will not negotiate for peace. We will seek total victory. We will fight until you surrender unconditionally or until your empire no longer exists. This is not a threat. This is a promise." The transmission ended. Across human space, the reaction was immediate. People who had been afraid now felt something else. Pride, determination, unity. In the Galactic Council chambers, many delegates were shocked. Total victory? No negotiations? This was not how civilized species conducted warfare. Conflicts in the galaxy were usually limited. Species fought over specific territories or resources, then negotiated peace. Long wars were rare. Wars of total conquest were almost unheard of. Counselor Vextar sat in his chamber watching the human president's speech again. He felt a deep sadness. He had tried to warn them. Now the galaxy would learn what he already knew. Elder Thalen, the ancient insectoid observer, remained silent, but began recording everything. He sensed that these events would be studied for thousands of years. Fleet Admiral Kyungsoo Bae stood in the primary military command center deep beneath Geneva. Around him, holographic displays showed ship positions, supply lines, and strategic data from across human space. He was 70 years old with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Show them," he ordered quietly. The displays changed. What appeared shocked every alien observer who had access to the feeds. Hidden shipyards appeared on the screens. Massive orbital facilities that had been disguised as civilian stations. Weapons research centers hidden in asteroid belts. Training facilities on remote moons. For 150 years, while humanity had been trading peacefully with other species, they had also been building a military force in secret. They had studied every war in galactic history. They had learned from every species they encountered. They had prepared for the day when someone would attack them. The fleet that assembled was 300 ships strong. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, and support vessels. Each ship was crewed by men and women who had trained constantly for scenarios most species considered unthinkable. Human military doctrine was different from anything in the galaxy. While other species prepared for limited conflicts, humans prepared for total war. Dr. Minho Kang stood before a classified briefing room filled with military officers. He had been pulled from his diplomatic duties to serve as strategic intelligence advisor. His knowledge of alien psychology and culture was now being weaponized. The Vorlak are a warrior culture, he explained, pointing to displays showing Vorlak biology and social structure. They value strength and honor above all else. They expect their enemies to fight according to certain rules. They do not understand asymmetric warfare or psychological operations. We can use this against them. He outlined a strategy that made several officers uncomfortable. Attack supply lines, target communications, spread misinformation, strike civilian infrastructure to force military resources into defensive positions. It was ruthless and effective. The Vorlak need to believe they are strong, Minho continued. When we break that belief, we break their will to fight. Captain Jiwon Park had been promoted to Rear Admiral and given command of the offensive fleet. He stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Indomitable, a massive battle carrier that dwarfed his previous ship. Around him, 300 vessels waited for the order to move. Special Forces Colonel Ji-hoon Ryu and his commando teams had already departed on covert missions. They traveled in small, fast ships that could slip through Vorlak space undetected. Their targets were not military bases but infrastructure, power stations, communication arrays, supply depots. The Vorlak Empire had never faced guerrilla warfare. They fought open battles with large fleets. They did not expect enemies to infiltrate their territory and strike at their foundations. Colonel Ryu's first target was a major supply depot on a Vorlak mining colony. His team of 20 commandos infiltrated the facility at night. They moved through the complex like ghosts, placing explosives at critical points. When they detonated, the entire depot went up in flames. Months of stockpiled weapons, ammunition, and supplies were destroyed in minutes. The Vorlak garrison responded, but the human commandos had already vanished into the wilderness. They would strike again 3 days later at a communications relay station, cutting off an entire sector of Vorlak space from Central Command. War leader Krathus assembled his massive fleet of 200 warships. It was the largest military force the Vorlak had deployed in decades. He was confident that no force in the galaxy could stand against it. He planned to crush the human colonies one by one, then strike at Earth itself. He would make an example of humanity. Every species in the galaxy would remember what happened to those who humiliated the Vorlak Empire. But when his fleet arrived at the rendezvous point, the humans were not there. The colonies were defended, yes, but by minimal forces. Where was the great human fleet that intelligence reports mentioned? The answer came 3 days later. While Krathus's fleet gathered to strike at New Busan again, Admiral Jiwon's forces appeared at a lightly defended Vorlak colony world called Krath 7. The human fleet destroyed the orbital defenses in hours and began targeting military installations on the surface. Krathus was forced to divert his fleet to protect Vorlak territory. But when he arrived, the human fleet was gone. They had struck another target on the opposite side of Vorlak space. This pattern continued for weeks. The humans never fought the battle Krathus wanted. They struck where he was not, avoided his main fleet, and targeted locations that hurt the Vorlak economy and morale. Supply lines were disrupted. Communication networks were sabotaged. Civilian populations on Vorlak worlds began to question their leaders. Why were they at war with the humans? What had this conflict gained them? Their military was being humiliated, their economy was suffering, and there seemed to be no end in sight. The Galactic Council watched in growing alarm. This type of warfare was unprecedented in recent galactic history. The humans were not trying to conquer territory. They were trying to destroy the Vorlak's ability and will to fight. Ambassador Hana Lee addressed the council again. Her message was simple and chilling. We gave the Vorlak every chance to avoid this war. They chose violence. Now they will learn that humanity does not fight for glory or honor. We fight to win, and we will not stop until we do. In the command center on Earth, Admiral Kyung-Soo Bai watched the strategic maps with satisfaction. The plan was working. The Vorlak fleet was scattered, chasing ghosts. Their supplies were dwindling. Their communication network was compromised. Morale was dropping. How long until they break? An aide asked. 3 months, the Admiral replied. Maybe less. War leader Krathus is proud, but his subordinates are not stupid. They can see they are losing. Soon someone in the Vorlak command structure will question whether this war is worth the cost, Doctor. Minyo Kang prepared the next phase of psychological operations. Human broadcasts would begin appearing on Vorlak communication channels. Not propaganda or threats, but simple questions. Why are you fighting? What have you gained? How many more must die for Krathus's pride? The messages were designed to plant doubt, to make Vorlak soldiers question their cause. It was a tactic as old as warfare itself, but the Vorlak had never encountered it before. In his command ship, war leader Krathus grew increasingly frustrated. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. His mighty fleet could not pin them down. His colonies were under constant attack. His officers were reporting supply shortages and communication failures. He remembered Counselor Vextar's warning again. You will never escape their wrath for the first time. Krathus began to understand what those words meant. The humans were not fighting a battle. They were fighting a war, and they were fighting it in a way the Vorlak had never seen before. The galaxy watched and learned. Humanity had revealed itself. They were not the peaceful newcomers anymore. They were something far more dangerous, a species that understood war at a fundamental level, that could switch from peaceful trade to total warfare without hesitation, that fought with cold efficiency rather than hot emotion. 6 months had passed since the war began. The Vorlak Empire was collapsing from within. They had lost 60% of their fleet. Their economy was in ruins. Supply chains had broken down. Communications were unreliable. Morale had shattered like glass, but war leader Krathus refused to surrender. In his mind, surrender meant dishonor worse than death. He believed that if he could just hold on a little longer, the humans would grow tired of fighting. All species eventually tired of war. It was the natural way of things. He was wrong about humans. Rear Admiral Jiwon Park stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, studying holographic displays of the Vorlak home system. The heart of the Vorlak Empire, their homeworld, was considered the most heavily defended location in their territory. Orbital defense platforms surrounded the planet like a metal shell. Minefields filled the space approaches. 3 full battle fleets guarded every possible entry point. Galactic military experts said the Vorlak homeworld was impregnable. It would take years to breach those defenses if it could be done at all. Admiral Jiwon planned to do it in 48 hours. All fleet commanders, he transmitted. This is it. Everything we have trained for comes down to the next 2 days. The Vorlak believe their homeworld cannot fall. We are going to prove them wrong. When we are done, every species in this galaxy will remember this battle. They will remember that humans do not make empty threats. Begin the operation. 300 human warships moved toward the Vorlak home system in coordinated attack groups. They came from multiple directions simultaneously, forcing the defenders to split their attention. Commander Sun Mi Han had recovered from her injuries on Harmony 7. Now she led the elite strike wing called Ghost Squadron. Their mission was the most dangerous: destroy the orbital defense platforms that protected the planet. Her fighter, a new Wildfire class with improved weapons and shields, accelerated ahead of the main fleet. Behind her, 49 other fighters followed in perfect formation. They were the tip of the spear, the ones who would break the Vorlak defenses. Approaching minefield, her sensors officer reported, detecting over 10,000 automated mines. Execute clearance pattern Omega, Sunmi ordered calmly. The fighters spread out and began releasing countermeasure drones. The small devices emitted signals that mimicked starship engines, drawing the mines toward them. Thousands of mines exploded harmlessly against the drones. Sunmi's squadron flew through the gaps, moving too fast for the remaining mines to intercept. They reached the orbital platforms, and the real battle began. The defense platforms were massive structures, each one capable of destroying a capital ship with a single volley, but they were designed to fight large, slow-moving targets. Sunmi's fighters were small and fast, darting between the platforms like angry insects. "Target the power junctions," Sunmi transmitted, "just like we practiced." The fighters fired precision missiles at specific points on each platform. Dr. Minho Kang's intelligence teams had analyzed Vorlak defensive designs for months. They knew exactly where to hit. The platforms began shutting down one by one, their power systems cascading into failure. Behind the fighter screen, the main human fleet arrived. Admiral Jiwan's Indomitable led the assault, its heavy weapons hammering at the Vorlak defense fleet. The battle was fierce and brutal. Ships exploded on both sides, space filled with debris and weapons fire. On the planet below, Colonel Jihoon Ryu and his commandos were already in position. They had infiltrated the Vorlak homeworld months ago, disguised as traders and workers. Now they emerged from hiding and began their attacks. Ground-based defense weapons suddenly went offline as commandos sabotaged their control systems. Communication arrays fell silent. Power stations exploded. The Vorlak defenders found themselves blind and confused, unable to coordinate their response effectively. Young Ensign Seojun Im served aboard the destroyer Relentless. This was his first major battle. He was 22 years old and had joined the military only a year ago. He had trained hard and studied harder, but nothing could prepare someone for the reality of war. "Incoming fire," someone shouted. The ship shook as Vorlak weapons struck their shields. Alarms blared. People ran to damage control stations. Seojin's job was to manage the tactical displays tracking friendly and enemy positions. His hands moved across the controls, highlighting targets for the weapons crews. A Vorlak cruiser appeared on his screen, launching missiles toward them. "Countermeasures deployed," the defensive officer reported. Most of the missiles were destroyed, but 3 got through. They struck the Relentless's port side, tearing open 2 compartments. 20 crew members died instantly. Seojin felt sick. He knew those people. He had eaten meals with them, trained with them, laughed with them. Now they were gone. "Stay focused, Ensign," his commanding officer said quietly but firmly. "Honor them by doing your job." Seojin swallowed his grief and continued working. There would be time to mourn later. Right now his shipmates were counting on him. The battle raged for 2 days. Slowly, methodically, the human fleet broke through every layer of Vorlak defense. The orbital platforms fell silent. The defense fleets were destroyed or scattered. The minefields were cleared. Commander Sun Mi-han's squadron performed one final legendary maneuver. A massive Vorlak orbital fortress still stood, its weapons threatening the entire human fleet. The fortress was surrounded by a debris field from destroyed ships, making a direct approach almost impossible. "Follow my lead," Sun Mi transmitted, "and trust your training." She flew directly into the debris field, weaving between chunks of metal and destroyed hulls at speeds that would kill most pilots if they made even a small mistake. Her squadron followed, matching her movements perfectly. They called it threading the needle, and it was considered one of the most dangerous flying maneuvers ever attempted. They emerged on the far side of the debris field directly beneath the fortress, in its blind spot. Their missiles struck the fortress's reactor core. The massive structure broke apart in a series of explosions that lit up the entire system. With the orbital defenses destroyed, human ground forces began landing on the Vorlak homeworld. War leader Krathus had retreated to his command bunker in the capital city, surrounded by his most loyal soldiers. He watched the tactical displays in growing horror. The humans were not just attacking military targets. They were systematically occupying every strategic location on the planet. And they were doing something he never expected, providing humanitarian aid to Vorlak civilians. Human soldiers distributed food and medical supplies. They set up temporary hospitals. They restored power to civilian areas. They were not conquerors interested in destruction. They were occupiers interested in control and stability. Dr. Minho Kang arrived on the planet within hours of the occupation beginning. He immediately took charge of civilian affairs, speaking to Vorlak citizens through translation devices. "We are not here to destroy you," he told them. "We are here to ensure you never threaten us again. If you cooperate, you will be treated fairly. Your lives will improve. If you resist, you will be defeated. The choice is yours." Most Vorlak civilians chose cooperation. They had suffered under Krathus's military government for decades. Many saw the humans not as conquerors but as liberators. In his bunker, Krathus finally understood what Counselor Vextar had tried to warn him about. The humans did not fight like other species. They fought with a combination of overwhelming violence and calculated mercy. They destroyed his military completely while simultaneously winning over his civilian population. It was brilliant and terrifying. Human soldiers surrounded his bunker. They did not storm it immediately. Instead, they waited, cutting off all escape routes, all supplies. They were patient. They knew Krathus had nowhere to go. After 3 days, with his remaining soldiers starving and his options exhausted, Krathus emerged from the bunker. He was taken into custody without resistance. Admiral Jiwan stood in the occupied capital, watching human engineers working alongside Vorlak civilians to restore infrastructure. The battle was over. The Vorlak Empire had fallen, but Jiwan felt no triumph. He looked at the destroyed buildings, the wounded civilians, the exhausted soldiers. War was necessary sometimes, but it was never glorious. Ensign Seojun Im stood beside him, also watching the reconstruction efforts. The young officer had survived his first battle, but he looked older now. He had seen friends die. He had killed enemy soldiers. He understood now what war really meant. "Was it worth it, Admiral?" Seojun asked quietly. Jiwan considered the question carefully. The Vorlak attacked us without cause. They killed our people and destroyed our homes. We had to respond. We had to make sure they could never threaten us again. In that sense, yes, it was necessary. He paused, watching a human medic treating a wounded Vorlak child. But every war has a cost, Ensign. Not just in lives lost, but in what it does to those who survive. We won this war. Now we must win the peace. That may be even harder. Across the galaxy, every species watched the fall of the Vorlak homeworld with a mixture of awe and fear. The humans had accomplished in 6 months what should have taken years. They had demonstrated military power and strategic thinking, far beyond what anyone expected. The peaceful newcomers to the galaxy had revealed themselves as something else entirely. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Vorlak homeworld. The Galactic Council chambers were filled once again, but the atmosphere was very different from that fateful session when war leader Krathus had demanded human colonies. Now every delegate watched the human representatives with careful respect and, in some cases, barely hidden fear. Ambassador Hana Lee stood at the center of the chamber, preparing to address the council. Behind her stood Admiral Jiwan Park, now a legendary figure across the galaxy. Dr. Minho Kang was also present, having returned from Vorlak space to report on the reconstruction efforts. The session had been called to determine humanity's place in galactic civilization. The Vorlak Empire no longer existed as an independent power. It was under human occupation, being rebuilt according to human principles. Some council members feared humanity had become the next great threat. Others argued humans should be expelled for their excessive prosecution of the war. Elder Thalen, who had observed in silence for so long, had finally requested time to speak. But first, Hana would present the human perspective. "Honored delegates," Hana began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. "1 year ago, the Vorlak Empire attacked our colonies without provocation. We warned that we would defend ourselves. We kept that promise. The war is now over. The Vorlak military has been dismantled, but we did not come here to celebrate victory. We came to speak about the future." Holographic displays appeared showing images from occupied Vorlak territory. The delegates saw something unexpected. Instead of devastation and oppression, they saw reconstruction. Human engineers working alongside Vorlak civilians to rebuild cities. Human doctors treating Vorlak patients. Schools reopening. Markets operating. Life returning to normal. "We fought this war not because we wanted to," Hana continued. "We fought because we had no choice. But once the fighting ended, we made another choice. We chose to rebuild rather than destroy. We chose to help the Vorlak people create a better society, rather than simply punishing them for their leaders' mistakes." She paused, looking directly at the various delegates. "Some of you fear us now. You have seen what humans are capable of in war. That is good. Fear can prevent future conflicts, but you should also see what we are capable of in peace. We do not seek to conquer the galaxy. We seek to ensure that what happened to our colonies never happens again, to us or to anyone else." Hana presented the Vorlak reconstruction plan in detail. Former military factories were being converted to civilian manufacturing. The authoritarian government had been replaced with a representative system. Education and healthcare were being expanded. Living conditions for average Vorlax citizens had improved dramatically compared to life under war leader Krathus's regime. "This is our vision for galactic peace," Hana concluded, "not through weakness or empty diplomacy, but through strength tempered with justice. We will defend the innocent, we will punish aggressors, and we will help rebuild what war destroys." When she finished, there was silence. Then Councillor Vextar requested to speak. The Saurian diplomat stood slowly. "I warned war leader Krathus not to attack the humans. I told him he would never escape their wrath. I was right, but I was also incomplete. I should have also told him about human mercy." Vextar gestured toward the holographic displays. "Look at what they have done. They defeated the Vorlax completely, yet Vorlax civilians now live better than they did before the war. This is not typical conqueror behavior. This is something different, something the galaxy has rarely seen." Before anyone could respond, the council chamber doors opened. Former war leader Krathus entered, escorted by human guards. The delegates were shocked. They had expected him to be executed or imprisoned in some dark facility. Instead, he walked with dignity, though clearly under guard, to stand before the council. Hana spoke again. "War leader Krathus has requested to address this council. We have granted that request. Justice requires that all voices be heard." Krathus stood before the species he had once considered weak. He looked older now, tired, but his voice was clear when he spoke. "I started this war," he said simply. "I ignored Councillor Vextar's warning. I believed humans were weak because they had not been in space very long. I believed military power was just about ships and weapons. I was wrong about everything." He paused, his forearms hanging at his sides. "The humans defeated my empire completely. They could have destroyed my homeworld. They could have enslaved my people as I planned to enslave theirs. Instead, they rebuilt our cities. They established fair government. They gave my people freedoms they never had under my rule." Krathus looked directly at Ambassador Hana. "I will stand trial for my war crimes. I will accept whatever punishment is decided. But I must speak this truth. The humans were the better civilization all along. I brought war to a species that wanted only peace. I cannot escape that knowledge. That is the real meaning of what Councillor Vextar warned me about. I will never escape the truth of what I did and who the humans really are." The confession stunned the council. War leader Krathus, who had been one of the galaxy's most feared military commanders, was publicly admitting complete defeat, not just militarily, but morally. Then Elder Thalen rose. The ancient insectoid moved slowly to the center of the chamber. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 3,000 years of observation. "I have watched civilizations rise and fall for longer than most of your species have existed," Thalen began. "I have seen conquerors who ruled through fear. I have seen diplomats who maintained peace through negotiation. I have seen merchants who built connections through trade. I have seen philosophers who led through wisdom." He paused, his ancient eyes reflecting the lights of the chamber. "But I have never seen what humans do. They fight with the ferocity of predators when threatened, yet they build with the patience of gardeners. They are capable of terrible violence and remarkable compassion, often within the same individual. They wage total war, then wage total peace. They are unique in my experience." Thalen turned slowly, looking at each delegate. "We face a choice. Do we fear them or learn from them? Do we see them as a threat or an opportunity? I have recorded everything that has happened. Future generations will study these events. What will we tell them?" we decided. The council debated for hours. Finally, a vote was called. The result was unexpected by many. Not only would humanity remain a council member, but a new protocol would be established, the Terran Security Protocol. If any aggressive species threatened galactic peace, humanity would be authorized to respond. Earth was essentially being made the galaxy's peacekeeper. Some delegates supported this because they respected human capability. Others supported it because they feared what might happen if they made humanity an enemy. Either way, the result was the same. President Narration received the news in her office on Earth. She did not celebrate. Instead, she stood at her window, looking out at the city lights below, feeling the weight of the responsibility that had just been placed on humanity. Her advisor asked if she was pleased with the outcome. Nari shook her head. We revealed ourselves to the galaxy. We showed them what we are capable of in war. Now we must prove we deserve the power they have given us. That will be harder than winning the war. On Harmony 7, Governor Taehyun Yoon oversaw the completion of New Busan's reconstruction. The colony was larger now than before the war, and in an unexpected development, Vorlak refugees had requested permission to settle there. They wanted a fresh start, away from the stigma of their empire's actions. Taehyun approved the requests. We fought to protect our homes, he explained to those who questioned the decision. But home is not just for one species. If they want to build a new life here in peace, we should let them. Admiral Jiwon visited the memorial that had been built for those who died defending the colony. 3,000 names were carved into black stone. He walked along the memorial slowly, reading the names, remembering the cost of victory. Lieutenant Seojun Im, who had been promoted after the war, found him there. The young officer had matured greatly in the past year. He had seen war and understood its true nature now. Admiral, Seojun said quietly, the younger generation is growing up knowing humanity's military strength. They see us as heroes. But I remember what you told me during the occupation. We won the war, but we lost something too. Jiwon nodded. We lost our innocence. We can never again claim we do not know what we are capable of. The galaxy knows what we can do. We know what we can do. That knowledge is a burden we will carry forever. Was it worth it? Seojun asked. We protected our people, Jiwon replied. We established peace. We prevented future wars through strength. In that sense, yes. But we must be worthy of the power we claimed. That is the real challenge now. In the occupied Vorlak territories, Dr. Minho Kang worked with local leaders to establish new systems of government and education. One morning, he received a message that made him smile. A young Vorlak student named Karth had been accepted to study xenobiology at the University of Geneva on Earth. The message was simple. I want to understand the species that defeated us but then helped us rebuild. I want to learn how to build bridges between our peoples. It was a small thing, just one student. But it represented hope for the future.